Let's continue our discussion on our chapter 1. This video is going to be the last video on our chapter 1. So in the previous video, I could recall that we stopped the previous video on the use of the research question, how we are changing the research question to research objective. I could recall that I said there are the broad objectives and then there are the specific objectives. I could recall that we said that. So in the previous video, we stopped in our research objective. So quickly, let's go through what research hypothesis entails: scope, justification of the study, and definition of terms before we move to our statement of the problem. Everything is going to be brief. It's not going to take long at all. So from our research objective rather, we are going to change following the same pattern but a slightly different way. We are going to change the research objective into hypothesis. And generally, when we are talking about research hypothesis, our research hypotheses are often stated in the norm form. We have the norm form and we have the alternative form. So our research hypothesis is often stated in the norm form. For the purpose of this video, let me quickly talk about the way we are going to state it. In subsequent video, we shall be talking about research hypothesis in details. So in order to state your research hypothesis in the norm form, that will be is going to take a negative form, though it goes by the signpost of H0 and this H0. So the 0 here is going to be a subscript for H. And let's practicalize with the first objective that we have here. Examine the effects of board shareholding on the financial reporting quality of multinational enterprises. Okay, so what we are going to do is that in order to change this to research hypothesis in the norm form stated in the norm form. Yes, the norm form H0. Okay, just to say. So stated in the norm form is going to be like there is no significant. Now, if you are looking for a relationship, or let's say there's no significant effect. No, there's no significant relationship. There's no significant relationship between board shareholding and financial reporting quality of multinational enterprises. So with this, the research hypothesis has been stated in the norm form. So if you are having two, you are going to state the other one too in norm form. This will be 1, this will be 2. Sorry, all these are going to be subscripts. So we are going to keep stating it like that, following the pattern of the first one. Okay, now when we are talking about the scope of the study, this scope of the study majorly talks about the coverage of your work in terms of the geographical area. Either you want to make it a state thing, or you want to make it a country thing, or you want to make it a cross-country thing, or probably all the countries in the western region, or GCC countries, or sub-Saharan Africa, or probably it's just Egypt, it's just Nigeria, it's just UK, or probably a state in Nigeria, a city in UK, or anyone. So that's what the scope is all about. So we have geographical scope. Okay, we have geographical scope. We have scope that are related to years, the coverage, the number of years your work is going to cover. Okay, let me write it out. We have geographical scope. we have year too. Year scope, or let me call it time. Year or time, that is, the time is going to cover the time. So the geographical scope, like I explained, is what it is. For the year scope, this is majorly talking about the number of years, which is also time. The number of years your work is going to cover. Is it 30 years? Is it 20 years? Is it 25 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 100 years? And if it is 15 years, from what year to what year? Is it 2008 to 2015? Is it 2008 to 2024? Whatsoever it is. So that is what the scope of the work is all about. And when we are talking about justification of the study is simply the reason why you're carrying out that work. This is different from the gap. This justification of the study centers on those that will benefit from your work. Yes, who are the people that your work will benefit? Is it the government? Is it the academic world? Is it students? Is it other researchers? Is it some specific sets of people? So it's just the justification of the study. Talk about all the categories of people that will benefit from that particular research, and in what way that study will be of benefit to them. Yes, the way the study will be of benefit to them. And in this justification of the study, you can also include the practical implication of that particular research that you are carrying out. Now, we are talking about practical implication. We are talking about the implication to the economy, the implication to the society, the practical implication that we can see to some specific set of people or whatsoever. That's what we mean by practical implication. So that's what the justification of study is all about. And then we move to the definition of terms. Now, when we're talking about definition of terms, your topic is made up of terms, terminologies. From your dependent variable to your independent variables, they all consist of terms, terminologies that formulate your topic. And all these things, you are going to define them. And when you are defining them, you are not just going to define them in an arbitrary form. You are going to define them in line with your work, the way those terminologies was used in your work. Now, let's take, for instance, the topic that we've been working on so far, that I said that this particular work has to do with what we call financial reporting, corporate governance, has to do with corporate governance and in relation to financial reporting practices, of multinational enterprise. All right, so in that particular topic, let's look at the terminologies that are there now. In your terminologies, you see, the terminologies now are, you pick those terminologies from the concepts that you've done, the conceptual review that you've done earlier, all those concepts too, they are terms that you've discussed extensively in your chapter 2, in the conceptual review of your chapter 2. So they also formulate the terms too. Now, for instance, now part of the definition of terms for this particular work, this topic that we are working with now, we say corporate governance, right? We've talked about corporate governance. We cannot come and be saying corporate. Okay, part of the terms is corporate governance. I want to say we cannot come and be saying corporate governance again, but we can still define corporate governance the way it was used. That's terminology 1. Corporate governance. Then we now define the terms. What are the things that we use to measure the corporate governance? This is the time. From our objective here, we made use of board shareholding. That's also a terminology. So we are going to define that too. Board shareholdings. So we are going to define them in relation to the way it was used in your work. So all those variables that makes up your independent variable too, they are terms. They formulate the terms that you are going to talk about. So you are going to define them. Then for your financial reporting quality too, Now, you can, that's another term, financial reporting quality. Financial reporting quality. Then you can talk about yes, financial reporting quality. Now, if there is a way, now we don't need to talk about the measurement here. So these are the things that formulate the definition of terms of your work that you are going to define according to the way it was used in your work. You are going to define them according to the way it was used specifically in your work. That is how you are going to define them. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the statements of the problem. The structure of the statements of the problem also takes the shape of the introduction aspect too of your work. Now, when you are talking about there is just, shall I say, there is a little difference between the introduction, the way we start we write the introduction, and the statements of the problem. Maybe there is, but this is the structure of the statements of the problem. So in starting with your statements of the problem, in starting with your statements of the problem, you are going to start with the problem on the dependent variable. Now, the difference between your statements of the problem and your introduction is that, in your introduction, when you were starting, you started with problems at the global scale. But when it comes to your statements of the problem, you are only focusing on problems within the geographical scope of your topic. I will take that again. In our introduction, we started with problem at the global level. Then we now bring it back down to the implication, and the implication in the locality that is in your geographical scope. Now, for your statement of the problem, we are going to start with problem on the dependent variable. The problem, the dependent variable is the one that has problem, right? Okay, so you always start with problem on the dependent variable, but in the geographical scope of your work, you have nothing to do with the global scale now. Just start with the geographical scope, then you move directly to the practical implication of the problem within the geographical scope. What are the practical implications of that problem you've identified that you can see? Then simply talk about how the independent variable too will provide solution to address the problem of the dependent variable. Like in our introduction, you are showing, you are not defining, just show how. And then now talk about what others have not done that you now want to do. We talk about what others have done that have not done, rather, that you want to do. I've shown you the example of how to do that in our previous video, I think video 2, yes, on this introduction. So you are going to talk about that, and with that you are done with your statements of the problem. So remember the structure. The way the structure is introduction or background to the study. Then you move to your statement of the problem, to your research question, research objective or aim of the study, depending on the way you are using it in your institution. Then to research hypothesis, your scope, justification of the study, and definition of terms. So this is the structure of your chapter 1. So I understand the fact that we were unable to talk about these components in depth, but in our subsequent videos, we are going to take them one after the other and talk about them in depth. But with this video, we've come to the conclusion of everything we need to talk about in our chapter 1. So see you in the next video. Bye.